we have talked as a team about different, anytime there's a pocket of somebody or a team that sees fast success, the question is always, what are you doing? Even on the Jules page, there was somebody, I think it was last month, she sponsored like 27 people. And, here are diamonds who are obviously at the top of the company asking her, what's your secret? What are you doing? Like, people always want to know what someone's doing when they're finding success, right? Because we want to see that success. So in this conversation, we kind of talked, one thing we have talked about, that's what I was going to say, on our team, is that I truly feel like when you look at anyone who is achieving goals, I'm going to use February as an example. Was that the iPad month? Was February the iPad month, or was it March? I don't know. It was called the iPad month. The reason that so many people on our team earned an iPad, and if you weren't around then or don't remember or weren't connected, in order to earn an iPad that month, you had to enroll 6 people. And we had a lot of people earn free iPads and enroll 6 people. The reason that happened is because they were doing the things. They were following the systems that we have. They were doing the system of what to be done. And that's really always what I tell people is, the reason XYZ is seeing success is because they're reaching out, they're following up, they're doing the things, right? So it led me to this conversation with a friend on identifying, recruiting, and developing business builders. And so I kind of jotted down some notes in this conversation that I personally feel like I have been trying to pay attention, I guess, to things that I would identify. If you have ever walked through or read through a business building book, whether it's Go Pro by Eric Worre, Rock Your Network Marketing Business by Sarah Robbins, that one is like one of my favorites. If you have not read it, it's worth reading. She breaks down very clearly kind of the basics for somebody just getting started on what you would do to build a network marketing business, right? One of those things, always, anytime, is writing a list, right? We write a list of people. We look at who we're going to contact. In that list, we have these people called dream teamers, right? Like people that we want on our team. And why do we want them on our team? Because they're successful, right? So we think they would be a good addition to our team, and we think Plexus would have something to offer them, right? It's mutual. It's not just benefiting us, it's benefiting them as well. And so I kind of was thinking through, what does a dream teamer look like? Sometimes we cast these big nets with Plexus business-wise and just grab anybody that's interested, right? Like, you breathe, you want Plexus? Okay, let's go. And now I'm never going to tell you if somebody says I want to sign up for Plexus that I'm basically going to say no, right? Like, I'm not going to turn somebody down if they want the products or they want the business. But I want to identify the people that I would consider true business builders that I want to link arms with and run towards the top of this company, right? So I'm going to kind of go through some things. So first of all, there are 2 things that anyone, regardless of whether they meet the criteria of what I would consider a dream teamer, there's 2 things that anyone to see success need to do. Number 1, they have to be coachable, meaning they have to be willing to listen to the advice of others and do it. Others meaning successful people who have done something. Now, being coachable doesn't mean that you do what every person tells you to do. If somebody is giving you advice and they don't have credibility to back up their advice, then you don't necessarily do what they do. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't have good advice. It means that you don't know that you can trust their advice, right? So sometimes you can get ideas from the least likely of places. That's not what I'm saying. But you want to be coachable from people, whether they're real life people, like Christina and I just did strategy calls, or maybe it's a YouTube video, or you're learning from, like right now, while we were doing this call, I'm working on learning Instagram, right? So I'm not finding people that have 3 followers on Instagram to learn from, right? I want to learn from people who've been successful. So being coachable means you're listening to what other people who have gone before you have said, and you're trusting and trying what they're saying. If you do every single thing I do, you might not have the same success I have. If you do every single thing that Faith Ryan does, or that Celeste Gwen does, or Brooke Hemingway does, you might not find the same success because we're all at different places, but implementing those ideas will lead you further to success. So number 1 is being coachable. Number two, you have to do the things. I don't care how many of these other pieces that you fit. If you're not working your business, it's impossible to see success. Impossible. You can't see success. If you never tell anyone that you're taking Plexus, you're never going to sign anyone to your team, right? So you have to do the things. We have systems set in place, and we'll talk about that in a second. So those two things, everybody has to do. And before I share these three things that I wrote down, I've said 1,000 times, and I want to reiterate, anyone can be successful in this business if they're willing to develop the skills that are necessary, okay? So the three things that I feel like if I saw someone, and I have people that are on my dream team list that I have not yet signed, that I'm continuing to work on that relationship with and work through the process of recruiting them, right? So the three things that I personally look for and I think are valuable, number one, that someone is confident. I'm just gonna go ahead and read all three. Confident, competent, and they have influence, okay? I feel like that little trifecta creates a platform for someone to see fast success. It doesn't mean if you don't have those things, or if someone on your team doesn't have those things, that they won't ever see success. But the more of those three, the higher you are in those three areas, the faster your success will be, or the potential for fast success, right? You can learn any of those things. So number one is confident. You have to be confident in who you are, who you're created to be, and that you have value to offer. So on that, you have to be adding value. If you are negative and you are cranky and you only ever tell people what's wrong with them, then it doesn't matter how confident you are in saying that, they might not want to join you. So you have to be confident that you have value to add to other people in Plexus and in life, simply because of who you are, okay? And part of developing as a leader and developing in business is determining who you are and determining what brand you want to represent, especially when you're talking social media, what brand you want to represent. When somebody thinks of Debbie, what are they going to list in their head? What things are they going to say about her that in their mind quantifies Debbie? Same thing for me. What things are people going to list about Rachel that qualifies me? Does that make sense? And you want to make sure that, number one, you have authority over that, especially on social media. Yes, in your real life, but it's even easier on social media to develop your brand because you literally get to decide what you put out about yourself, right? So maybe, like I'm looking at Christy, maybe she's going to talk about how she's a grandma, right? She raises her grandson. She adores him, the things that she does with him, right? She's going to talk about her fiance because she loves him and they have a good relationship. She's going to talk about what are the things that make you you and how do you add value in that. So one thing that helps, if you look, like I said, I'm working on learning Instagram, right? And a lot of the training videos, as they talk about adding value, it's not about Plexus, right? Trisha Rieger started her Instagram account as she was doing different things with repurposing furniture, and she's big into minimalism, and so she shares about minimalism. She's got 5 kids. Her little Instagram tag is literally clean house with kids, which I need in my life. It's a clean house with my kids. So thinking to add value in the areas that you would consider are you. So whether that's a tip on being a mom or a pet mom or gardening or fill in the blank, a grandmother, healthy recipes, whatever it is, adding value and being confident that what you have to offer is benefiting those that are listening, right? You can have the best thing in the world to say, and if you don't present it in a way that is confident, most people are not going to listen. If you're like, maybe if one day, maybe you could try this, and I don't know, but it's just not the same, right? When you come across confident, knowing that you have value to add, people listen. Especially when you're creating a network of people that are just getting to know you. Maybe you have met them in real life, but you're not BFF, right? They don't know all about you, so they're learning all about you. It's easier to create the brand that you desire in a network where people don't know you because they literally know what you tell them. Now, the key to that is being authentic. You don't want to lie. You don't want to be fake. You don't want to be whatever, because That's just wrong. There's 1,000 other reasons, but let's just start with that. So number 1, confidence. Number 2, competence. If you have ever tried to enroll someone who does not know how to use a computer, it is not easy. Okay, so it doesn't mean that they can't enroll and they can't be successful, but there are a few things that are needed to see success in our particular business model. One of them would be knowing how to use a computer, right? Knowing how to do things on a phone. Now here I am telling you, I don't know how to use Instagram. You can learn anything, but someone who's competent, and not just competent on electronics, but someone who's competent, you have a conversation and you walk away thinking, they got that, right? Not walk away thinking, I'm gonna have to explain that again 10 times. Like, we've all had those conversations, right? And again, it doesn't mean they can't be successful, but the faster success will come, the more competent a person is in all the areas that we touch in our business. Someone can be very competent in certain areas and still have a learning curve in the things that we touch in a Plexus business. Does that make sense? Is that making sense? Okay, so confidence, competence, and influence, okay? It doesn't matter how confident you are and how competent you are, which I will say, if you are those two things, you probably have influence, even if you don't realize it, okay? But it doesn't matter if you're doing all the things, you're coachable, you're doing the system, we're following the systems, you're confident, you're competent, if no one's listening to you, right? And there are lots of resources on how to develop your influence, okay? There are books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I believe that's by Dale Carnegie. Is that right, Chris? Correct me on that. John Maxwell has a book called 25 Ways to Win with People, I believe is what it's called. There are lots of resources. Yeah, Dale Carnegie wrote the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then 25 Ways to Win with People is John Maxwell's. Those are two really good places to start. So, I lost my whole train of thought. Oh, you can develop influence. So,
do you know, are those books audio? Any of those?
The John Maxwell one should be audio. I would check on Amazon and see. The How to Win Friends and Influence People is a little older. Oh, Christina just said they're both audio.
Awesome.
So you can check on Amazon too for a lot of the books, and you'll find them on audio. So learning to develop your influence is key. If someone has those 3 things to start with, and it's sometimes you're going to find it where somebody will have a lot of influence and then struggle in one of those other 2 areas. But most of the time, those 3 things kind of go together. If someone has that, the higher they are on those 3 things, often the faster will often reflect the faster you go through growth, right? Dependent on that they are coachable and doing the things, okay? If you are not doing the things, it doesn't matter. You could be an 11 out of 10 on all 3 of those categories. But if you aren't following the simple systems that we have in place and that corporate has put in place for us, then you're not going to see as much success. And I will say, I have learned that the hard way. And Christina would say the same thing. First of all, when we got started, we didn't have the same systems that we have now. We didn't really have systems. But we had people who had seen success, and there were times that we would do things that they did. And then there were times that I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this my own way. Like, I'm going to rewrite this whole thing, and I'm going to redo this. And I wasted my time, my small amount of work time, I wasted rewriting what somebody else did, and I could have just have used their system, right? So it doesn't mean that someone won't see success if they do their own thing. They might. But in general, a good principle is when you follow the successful systems, that are already set in place, you will see faster success because they've already worked out the kinks. They've already done the whole thing. So those 3 things: confident, competent, and have influence. And then also that they are coachable and do the things, right? So ideally, they have all 5 of those things. But if you are listening to this call and you're like, okay, I struggle with X, Y, or Z, that doesn't mean you won't be successful. Find resources and develop those skills that you feel like you're lacking. Or if you're like, man, I really want my best friend to do this with me, but oh, they're so fill in the blank. That's okay if they are willing to learn. And here's another little thing. You cannot drag anyone to be emerald, okay? You cannot want this more for them than they want it for themselves. They have to be willing to fill in the gaps where they're missing their skills and do the things, right? And if they're not, then they're only gonna go so far. And you cannot force them to do that. You can love them, you can help them where they're at, you can help them meet their goals, you can help them, but that's all you can do. And if you spend all of your time, let's just say you recruit 10 people and 5 of them say they want the business, okay? If you spend, and 1 of them runs with it, they do the thing, regardless of the success they're seeing, they're doing the things, okay? And you're like, okay, shoof, that one's doing it, right? So then you're focusing all your time on the 4 that aren't, and you're no longer recruiting, and you're not helping the 1 person who's doing something, right? So focusing your time on your personal business and the people on your team that are actually doing the things and helping them fill in the gaps where they're not seeing results, that's where your time is going to be effective, okay? It doesn't mean that you don't love the people who joined you and aren't doing anything. You still love them, you still check on them, but they aren't the ones that are really running with this business, right? So when you're looking at your business time, then those are the things you're focusing on. So that is kind of my little overview of how to identify who you would want to be a business builder, right? So that's identifying like, okay, these are the people I really want. And then how do we recruit them? Very simple. We follow the send, share, invite, right? There is a very simple system, send, share, invite. We ask if they would be open to checking out a video. Hey, not sure if you've seen my Plexus posts. It's something I'm really loving. And then be honest with them. Honestly, I really think you would be so good at this business. I think you'd be able to add value to your family. You'd be able to add income to your family. And I would really have fun doing this with you. Would you be up for watching a little video and see if you think it might be for you, right? Sometimes the people that you want to do this business with you the most, you have to ask them. You have to flat out say, and you may be saying to yourself, they know what I do. I invited them to this event or that event, or they've seen all my Plexus posts. I talk about it all the time. They know what I do, right? If they, and the people that are closest to us are the ones sometimes that are the scariest. Those are the people especially, you have to ask them, hey, I want you to do this with me. Will you do this with me? Right? People that you don't know as well. Sometimes you might find that the people that are at the top of your dream team list, you don't know them very well at all, right? You work on developing that relationship and you ask them, hey, I know this might seem totally random, but I love that you care about other people. I love that you are such a good communicator. I love fill in the blank. I mean, don't like flatter them for 3 years, but like be honest about what you love about them. And tell them, I really think that you would do awesome at what I do. Can I share a little bit with you about what I do? Even if you don't say Plexus, they might know, they might not know. So you've got to walk through the process of the send, share, invite. You've got to walk through the process of doing the things like we talked about, right? If you aren't familiar with send, share, invite, there are several posts on our team page that walk you through exactly how to do it. Your virtual office walks you through. If you click on training and resource library, it will say step 1, step 2, step 3, and there's lots of tools in each section of videos of what to send. So my last 4 tips. Number 1, don't be weird. We get weird when we get nervous. So don't be weird, okay? Like we get all like awkward and what are we going to say? And are they going to like what we have to say? And are they going to even listen? And just be real, be yourself, tell them what you think and why you think it, and ask if you can share. Number 2, be yourself. If you copy a message I've posted something on the team page and you copy it and you send it and I used vocabulary that you never use, it doesn't sound like you. Be yourself, be real, and make it sound like you. Number 3, don't puke Plexus, okay? Sometimes we get in this mindset of like, oh my gosh, we have to tell them all the reasons why they need this. You need to do this and you need to do this, and there's gut health and there's blood sugar, and there's gut health and there's blood sugar and there's this and you need to do this and blood sugar is connected to that. And oh, you told me 3 years ago that you struggle with this. And we just get so excited that we like, blah, right? Keep it short and simple and end with a question. And number 4 is just do it. You will hold yourself back because you're scared to do it and then not do it. So just do it. I had notes. I have like, okay, this is just a sample on my desk. I'm sitting at my desk. These are my consolidated notes, guys, of like all these things, okay? Front and back. And these are my consolidated notes. I cleaned off my desk today and I had 1,000 pieces of paper. So I wrote everything down on a few pieces of paper. A few. But as I did that, I had lots of little notes. One of them is still here. Whereas I would see a post on Facebook of somebody saying, like, oh, there was 3 right here in front of my face. Somebody's name and migraines, somebody's name and insomnia, somebody's name and the business. And these were all off specific posts that they made. Now, none of those 3 people do I have a good personal relationship with. It's not a bad relationship. I just don't have one. Okay. So in that moment, I didn't feel, Christina makes a post about something that I feel like I have an answer to. Obviously she already uses Plexus, right? But she's already on my team. But if she makes a post about something I feel I have an answer to, well, I'm going to tell her right away. We talk constantly, every single day. So I don't have to feel like I have to work myself up to it, right? These 3 people that I wrote down, I didn't feel like, oh, we've got this instant, connection. So I wrote their name down. And this morning when I went through my desk, I sent them a message and I connected with a short sentence. And then I asked them like, hey, I worded it different for each person, right? But I messaged them. 2 of them have already gotten back to me and are relatively open. And the 3rd one got back to me and said no, very nicely. And so we move on. And you know what I said to her? I said, oh, that's awesome. Good luck, because she was already doing something else. Good luck with that. It was business related, not product related. So then I said, if you happen to know anyone that could use some natural help with, and I listed about 4 things, I said I would love the referral. And I sent it. And, I led with the business, fall back on the products, right? I didn't offer her the products because I don't really know her at all. So I'm working on that relationship a little bit, and I'll swing back around in a couple months and invite her to an event so she can learn about the products herself, right? So all of that to say is you've just got to do it. If it doesn't feel comfortable in that moment, write it down or you'll forget if you're like me, and then go back and do it. So those are my slightly frazzled notes on identifying a business builder and how to recruit them. We have amazing systems, guys. The Send, Share, Invite, utilizing this new 3-day sample pack and plugging somebody into a 3-day, right? Using the things that are in front of us. And when someone signs up, walking them through. If they want the business, walking them through the 7 steps for ambassadors. If they sign up just for the products, then you're still going to offer them the next time we have a 3-day event for them to get their friends started on 3-day trial packs, right? And this new 3-day thing makes it so easy. It's basically free. Basically, they try the products free for 3 days if they decide to continue, because they get that $20 coupon. And if they don't, it was $20 and they tried it, and you have a new potential to add to your list for the sales and all the things that come our way, right? So does anybody have any questions